Right, welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Me and ADHD podcast. My guest for today's episode is a psychological practitioner within the NHS and private practice, specialising in trauma work, as well as a TikTok creator, content creator I should say, with a profile name of Riley Melvin Paknik, otherwise known as Matthew. Welcome, Matthew.
Brilliant introduction there. A lot of stuff there to go on, but bang on correct. So thank you very much for having me.
That's
really
okay.
Excited to be here.
No, I'm glad you're here. I am glad you are here. Enjoying the weather, are you?
Well, yeah, the only bit of my introduction you missed out there was I have terrible allergies and hay fever. So I don't enjoy any of this weather. Allergic to grass and dust. So yeah.
Oh, that's a little
There's
bit
a
rubbish.
dust machine over there kind of purifying the air. So I like the weather, but yeah, don't like the hay fever.
You like it when you're looking out the window, it's fine.
Outside, it's like...
Oh dear. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Anyway, so welcome to the show. Seriously glad you're here. I know we've sort of talked a little bit on TikTok before, as I know you were diagnosed in 2021.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Late Diagnosed Club. So
there's a club? No one told me there was a club.
There is a club.
Thanks for having me in the club.
It's exclusive, I'm telling you. Yeah, so basically, we're going to be here talking about, I guess your experience sort of before and after, and what you're doing, where you're going. But what's life for you? Going back to the beginning, really, what's life for you before being diagnosed?
So like years and years ago, I didn't even know what ADHD was or autism. I was labelled as a bit of a naughty boy at school. You just believe that what's going on in your head's normal. So I reflect now and think back and think all the thoughts I had, all the impulsive things that I did right back when, as a psychological practitioner, I like to take things apart and think about things, and I could list things that I did, and I now know why I did it. But again, no one, I couldn't name anyone who had a diagnosis of ADHD in my school or college or at uni. That total, what is it?
Yeah.
And it hasn't been until I started working within a child and adolescent mental health service that someone said to me, "Oh, Matt, you tick a lot of boxes for ADHD." I was like, "Oh no, I went to school and college. I'm educated. I'm not ADHD. People are naughty or take drugs." And and I then started that process, and it was life changing. You have to shut me up as well if I go on a bit.
No, you go for it.
Many doctors had diagnosed depression and anxiety, and I tried every antidepressant. I can name them all. Nobody had ever brought me to this kind of conclusion. And unfortunately, I went to the doctors and said, "Oh, I've done this QB test, and it's coming up that I could possibly have ADHD." And my GP laughed. And that was my experience of our NHS, is that, "Well, no, you're a professional," and they laughed. And I had to then pay to go privately. And it was probably one of the best things I've done in my life. And it has changed my life.
It is
in lots of ways.
When you get the answers, when you get the information and the explanation of your life and the struggles that you had and why you struggle to do certain things and why you can do other things that other people can't do, and it all just makes it sound okay. I get it. I get what it's all about now, which is huge for people.
So I think kind of like as a therapist as well, I'd like approach things as trying to put people's jigsaws together. And it was an opportunity for me to put my jigsaw together. Went privately after antidepressants and seeing rheumatology, gastroenterology, because my health anxiety was through the roof, because my dad had died of cancer, so I was obsessed with everything. The consultant psychiatrist that I saw privately was the only person that understood me, and after I think 10 minutes of me going on with myself and speaking really fast, doing this and presenting my case to him, and I said, "If I've not got ADHD, I don't know what is wrong with me." and he said to me, "There's nothing wrong with you. Um, you have ADHD." And like even talking about it now, I'm like, I get really emotional because I was what 37, and I just think about sorry, I think about missed opportunities and stuff throughout my life, and how I might not have been here because of my own difficulties and traumas and stuff, and the things I have done in my life where I think, why did no one say to me, why did no one support me, why was it the way it is? And a few people have said to me, oh, you can't change the past, you regret this, you regret that, and I don't regret. I was lucky in my life, I suppose, to get to where I am, but what could I have achieved if I'd have got help sooner is a little nugget of my mind that I think, oh, but you can't obsess about that.
Yeah.
But I certainly am doing better in my life with that diagnosis. I might have drifted off there, but I'll let you bring me back.
No, it's a real common theme for all the people I've spoken to, where you get this kind of real negative feeling about your past and what if, and I personally I didn't have that. I got straight into this euphoric bubble of, I've got answers, my life is explained, and it's fantastic, great. The only thing I do think about is what would my education be like, if I was on medication back then. I got diagnosed at 51. I mean, it wasn't talked about at all back then, so it wasn't a thing at all. But what would I have done? Because my education was rubbish. I'm predominantly inattentive, so I'm not bouncing off the walls. I wasn't the naughty child in the class. I was really trying hard, but just couldn't focus. So what would it be like? What would I do? Would I have a PhD right now? Would I, would I be in
Kind of, I was able to study it, and again, quite inattentive, executive dysfunction, but also class clown. Now, my son is 10, and because of my knowledge and my work and stuff, I've always been mindful that my son could have ADHD. And he has, but he was diagnosed privately because the NHS again wouldn't touch him because he wasn't in crisis. And he is now taking medication at age 10, and it has changed his whole education.
Yeah.
He got a little letter back to show the consultant. Concentration has significantly improved. Attention to detail in his work has significantly improved. Engages in class discussions appropriately. Emotionally regulates himself with his peers. And I'm like, proud that my son has been able, we're on a very low dose of a medication that is helping him with his education, and that system. But it's not sorted everything out for him. There's still other things that we do and stuff. And I just wish that I'd have had that opportunity, to get to your full potential, I suppose. But I don't let it hold me back now. We're talking about it now, but I do focus on the future and what can I do now?
I mean, that's the main thing. It's very natural to think about the past and everything, because you've lived it, you've struggled, you've had this, and and it's because of all that is where you are now. However, you've got to move forward. You've got to look at what you can do now to keep going on, to create a positive life for yourself and your family. So
going back to my GP, he's now said your attendances at the GP said, because I was so anxious all the time, has now gone like that.
Excellent.
Since my ADHD, we don't see you. When we see you, we know that actually there's something not quite. Because I'm like, I don't need to go to the doctors. There's no negative thinking or rumination or hyper focus on my bowels or this or that.
Yeah.
It's just that first day of medication was a complete change.
That's good.
Which my husband noticed. He was like, "You're still. You're never still." I'd have to come home from work and have a sleep sometimes because I was lazy. I'm lazy. People have called me lazy for my whole life. And the consultant said to me, he said, "Well, no, you're not lazy. You're tired because of all the thinking that you've been doing all day." I used to sit with my husband and say, "What are you thinking right now? What are you thinking? What's going through your head?" And he'd go, "Nothing." I'd say, you're weird. I'm a therapist. You've got to always be thinking. And now I sit and I don't think sometimes, and that is like heaven, absolute heaven.
Like, how do other people live their life, with a clear head? You know, that's a crazy thought. Even for me, I mean, I don't get that completely clear head. My medication works for me, and it does what I really want it to do, need it to do. But unlike yourself, I mean, you can have that clear head. I don't have that. So it's like you said, medication is really, really good. It can work in slightly different ways depending on how you metabolize it. And it doesn't cure ADHD. It just helps. It is a support, for the.
See it as a bit of a bar graph. It moves things about in that kind of cycle. It might improve that, but it does wear off. And I've had a very interesting journey with medication because I'm awkward. So I've trialed quite a few. So the first one gave me Raynaud pain and worked to treat. Probably the best one out of them all for the stillness and the quietness in the mind, but caused me pain. The second one caused me to get quite angry and quite shouty, which was one of the reasons I wanted to take it, because I was always angry and shouting and snappy. So then they added a non-stimulant into that one, and that worked very well. And they stopped making the non-stimulant brand, and the generic brand gave me really bad IBS. And then we finally settled on Concerta XL, which is what I take now.
Okay.
And that works.
That's a journey in itself. I mean, forget the ADHD journey. The medication journey can be harrowing sometimes. Because, like I say, the side effects and everything can just be, you've got something that you think is perfect, but the side effects you just can't handle. They're just horrible. But it just.
But again, it's not just about medicine. It's diet. It's exercise. It's medicine isn't. Oh, I'm going to take this. My ADHD will just go for the day.
You got to put the strategies and everything in place to help you. I find my medication allows me to have a slower mind, and can read and think and put things together. So if I'm off my medication, I've got things already in place. I can't put those things in place if I'm not on medication. It's not happening. For many different reasons. I came off my medication because my blood pressure went up. I had 3 months without medication. That was just
snap.
Sucks. But I'm on blood pressure medication now, and I'm back to the medication that I was on before, and it's working fine. I'm on dexamphetamine, so I take it twice a day. Lasts 5-6 hours for me, which is lovely. Come 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, it's gone. I get a lovely bit of medication rebound, and my head is all over the place. I can't speak. I forget words even worse than I normally do. And then it just chills out for a little bit, which is great. But yeah, you got to put things in place as well. Otherwise, it's just kind of pointless. You can't just rely on the one thing. But anyway.
No, and I think people just think that it's take a pill and you're okay, and that you also slip into that. My mum's first comment was, "Well, trying to shove a label on everything now, aren't they?" And then my mum started telling me that people had said at school, "Oh, he's got dyslexia," but no one ever told me. So I'm like, I've struggled with reading and writing my whole life, and you said that someone at school told you I had dyslexia, and no one ever told me. And I now read with overlays, which helps me retain information.
Okay.
And I'm 41 now, and my mum just said, "Oh yeah, they did say you've got dyslexia at school." No one ever told me.
Wow. Okay. That would have been good to know, to be fair.
It would have, but again, dyslexia meant you were thick and you were lazy in my head. They'd mentioned it at university to me when I studied, that, some of your work, you need to just maybe have a dyslexia. I was like, no, because is that how I was brought up to think that this was that and this was that? It meant that something was wrong with you. And it's that society, is that culture. Whereas, my little boy, he's had dyslexia screening. He's got dyslexia. We've made adaptations. He enjoys reading now. because we have special books and overlays and all the, and we've got dyslexia booster books and stuff, and he wants to engage. He got him a book for Christmas which was just dyslexia friendly, and he opened it. He said, "Oh my god, I can read this." How empowering is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got into a whole new podcast now about dyslexia. So about that.
No, it's cool. I mean, you mentioned about labels and everything. I mean, this is the thing I hear a lot about, do you really want to have that label? Should you label your child and things like that? And my thought behind this is this. Go and speak to, a handful of late diagnosed ADHDers. So they didn't have that label when they were kids going through school, okay? They didn't have that diagnosis. And ask them, how was your education? How was your social skills and, making friends? How did you get on with family? How did you get on with your teachers and the people at school? What was your life like? Okay? And then once you hear those people tell you, you will go and get your child, assessed and diagnosed and medicated or whatever it is, because it's not great. The label, your child will be labeled. Your child will be labeled. If they struggle at school, they struggle at home, they struggle at work, with friends, whatever, they will be labeled. And they're not great labels. And then they'll end up labeling themselves. The lazy, stupid.
And then they're in the mental health system.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's what will happen. So yeah, I'd rather have the label of ADHD, so I know what it is, I've got the answers, I can get help, I get support, and my life now is a lot better. Yeah.
My little boy says his life is better, and he's 10. He says that his thoughts are calmer. He gets on better with his friends. So if you look at that evidence that a 10-year-old ADHD age is 8, so if you've got a class of 10-year-olds who've not got ADHD and then an 8, so he was younger than his peers. And you used to see those interactions as a psychological practitioner and a nurse. I'd go, ooh, but we have to push and pay privately. Consultant was absolutely amazing. Diagnosed, trial of medication, and school have got open mouths at the quality and the improvement in his functioning, if you like, in school. Mine's emotional well-being, friendships, and being able to have that group of friends, which I didn't have at school. School are obviously more interested in the education side.
Yeah, which is a shame. I think it's a shame. But I mean, for you, what sort of impact did it have for you at school and the social environment for you?
So yeah, limited friendships, I suppose. I had friends, but I flitted and floated between different groups. And with my knowledge now, I reflect back and go, "Oh, that's probably my ADHD there." I was quite impulsive in school, and that was an issue.
Okay. It makes it hard.
And the thinking in school, so, I remember a standout incident which I had therapy for, which was an interaction with a teacher where I believe she told me she didn't like me. And then that stuck with me in my mind, and I began not to like myself.
Yeah.
Because what I know now is your ADHD brain soaks everything up and ruminate over it, go over it and over it, or you might not hear what's actually been said because your brain's working so fast. And there was just a lot of behaviour in primary school in particular that I think, wow.
What
things that I did. I remember being very much in people's faces. I remember being quite obsessive over someone as well, who I wanted to have a relationship with at the time, and they didn't want to have a relationship with me.
Okay.
I became very fixed on that. And I could never make sense of that, even as a therapist. What was that about?
Yeah.
And now I make sense of it.
It's so when you get, let's say, the answer, you get the diagnosis, and you do the research, because you don't get a lot of information given to you once you get diagnosed. So you do the research and everything, and you get the answers and explanations, and it all bit by bit starts to make sense. You know, you kind of understand those previous scenarios that you think back and go, maybe I didn't do that right, or maybe I've got that wrong, and you know, you look back and think, well, actually, this is why. You know, but when you then start to know these things and learn these things, and then you know, you can put things in place. You can think, I say think differently, but you can, I guess, take a little bit of time, even that's like extra 10 seconds to think about it before you respond, and all these little all these little things you can do to help, which you didn't have the information beforehand. So there was no help, there was no support, so it was free flowing. You know, there's no stopping it. It is what it is. It's coming out, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to say. It's
And you know, we were lucky.
Yeah.
Whereas I work in mental health services, and now my awareness of ADHD, I see in mental health services that there's a lot of people with undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, who, if you trace their lives back, which I've done, and ADHD is part of that. There's journal articles as well to say that it's been underdiagnosed in this country for many years.
Yeah.
People still say, oh, you know, rushing to get a label for your child or yourself.
It's not rushing to get labels, it's rushing to get support and help. You know, if you're doing it, you're struggling. You know, if you're going private, you're not going to spend that money because, hey, someone told you might be ADHD. Let's go check. You know, you don't spend that amount of money. It was
the best money I've ever spent.
Say again?
It was the best money I've ever spent, and the support from the private psychiatrist, and obviously all the medication changes, you know, and paying private prescriptions for a period of time was an investment for me.
Yeah, because it can be expensive.
It is on shared care now with my GP, which was a battle, but it is there.
Yeah. But that's a whole nother podcast episode itself. The shared care stuff. So going through all of that, and obviously you work with the NHS and private as well. But did it kind of did that come before, and the thought about going into doing what you're doing now come before your understanding of ADHD and before it was on the radar?
So I was working in basically I applied for I was a therapist in a primary care adult service, and I applied for a promotion quite impulsively, and got the job, and it was working as a trauma therapist in schools and in a CAM service.
Yeah.
And that when a colleague said, oh, bit of ADHD there. I was like, what? Did the QB test, and then I went privately, and then my knowledge of ADHD has grown since then.
Just quickly, how did you find the QB test?
A bit boring.
It was mental torture for me. Absolute mental torture. Sorry, I digress. You carry on. Sorry, I just.
No, I think it's a really important question. I was literally, glazed over, and I just lost interest. I was doing something last night, a questionnaire for work. It was late on in the evening, and I got bored, and I got overwhelmed. There was too many questions, too much going on, and I just ended up clicking no, 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 no. But I'd emailed her and said that was too overwhelming. That questionnaire should have been 3 snappy questions for a new policy we're developing. Yeah. It was too much.
It can be like that.
So my knowledge has grown. There's a really good book, I'm not on commission, but called All Dogs Have ADHD, by a lady called Kathy someone. I haven't got it here because I've lent it out. I read that and I was like, that's me.
It does make such a massive difference when you know. It really, really does. And not just to your your education, but to your relationships, to your career.
So since diagnosis, I've had another promotion which I never would have been able to apply for in another service. Able to read the job spec and retain information and go in and smash an interview. And the feedback I got was amazing.
Excellent.
There was another example of I had to reduce my meds because of my blood pressure, and I had another interview for another promotion, which I didn't get the job.
Yeah.
And, I'm not beating myself up over that. That was the reduction in medication, but my blood pressure, I wasn't well, stressed. It was what it was, but there were totally two different examples of I'm on it, I'm not on it.
Yeah.
I think without that medication and the changes I've made to my life, that I wouldn't have progressed. I feel that over the years of taking the meds, my brain is functioning better every day alongside other things I do. Like it's repaired itself. Like there's different bits that are connecting. The longer I've taken medication, even though they say it goes in your system and comes out, it 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 fascinates me.
It is. It's. I mean, a lot of people knock the medication, but it does a very good job. Um, and it's not getting high. It's not giving yourself an extra boost that other people don't get. It's trying to put us on a level playing field.
There's no boost for me. I'm not. People say I'm much calmer. My friends at work notice a huge difference straight away. But I'm not sedated.
Yeah.
I'm not flat.
No.
If
If you are, your prescription's too high, or you're having a bad reaction, because that's not what it's meant to do.
You said something about 10 seconds, I'm able to just pause
Yeah.
and think things through. But sometimes I don't as well.
Yeah.
But I'm able to reflect on that. I've had people say, "Oh, Matt, you're talking a bit fast. Can you slow down a bit?" Still get a bit excited in sessions and in work. Oh, boom, 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 boom. My I applied for access to work, which provided, lots of different adaptations and support again, because it's not just about medication. So, I wear headphones at work sometimes. I have a stand-up desk. I have a clock watch for time blindness to help me manage my time. I do yoga and mindfulness. All of that and running is a package around me. It's not pop a pill and everything's fine.
Yeah. It's when you got access to everything and everything's working, the medication's working for you and everything else, you put it together and that's your best combination. Take one thing away, you've now decreased the amount of help that you're getting for your brain. Take away the medication, you're going to struggle with the rest. Take away those things that you put in place at work, medication's not going to sort of fill that gap. It's gonna help, but it's not going to fill that gap. You need all these other things to help you in all the different
And
areas.
that's what I think good about my son is that the psychiatrist wrote to school and listed adaptations that need to be made to help him in his education. It's not pop a pill and everything's okay.
Yeah.
So he's got like a care plan, if you like, which is, if he's doing an exam, he needs this, he needs this, he needs these adaptations, because it's not, oh, pop a pill and let's make life easier at school for the teachers. Actually, we want to make my son's life easier.
Yeah. It's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot that people just don't understand about ADHD and what it is, the medication, what sort of support that that can help us. And it is, like I say, it's not something that we don't deserve and we're getting in, and other people are not getting it, which so it's not fair. No, actually, we're just trying to cope. We're just trying to do our jobs. We're just trying to get through. ADHD is, as a whole, struggle through many areas of life. And
some people are really lucky and end up okay because they've got the right system around them, the right family, the support, or friends. But some people don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And end up in mental health services, drug and alcohol. And someone needs to do some research around like people that have ended their lives, sadly. What's their history been like? Because I feel like I've become obsessed with ADHD because I do see it a lot now, whereas I didn't see it before.
Yeah.
And then sometimes maybe overthink it as well. Is that because I've got lived experience of it I am lucky to be in a professional role, but I can't diagnose someone with ADHD. I haven't got that qualification or power, but I can follow a diagnostic criteria and collect a history from someone. And you've either got it or you haven't.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people that haven't, but there are also lots of people that I see that have, but have not had the opportunities like I've had to, fork out that amount of money, which wasn't, I'm not minted. I'm not rich, but I had to go on a credit card. A lot of the prescriptions did. Other people haven't got a chance. And the state of the diagnostic stuff in this country for ADHD is an absolute sad state of affairs. And I was really lucky recently to be part of a consultation that's changing the pathway within the Northwest as someone with lived experience of ADHD, but also as a professional to shape services of the future. And lots of positive stuff. But again, it's hard for people. Sorry, that was a bit sad, really.
No, but that's the reality of it all. People just don't understand the life of someone living with ADHD, diagnosed or acknowledged or not. It's a massive struggle. And then when you go down that pathway of trying to get diagnosed, none of it is conducive to an ADHD mind. You have to do research and read and remember things and where all these places are that you have to get in contact with, and then you get sent forms, long forms you have to fill in, and then you have to give them back by a certain time, and then you have to book in, and then you have to be there at a certain time, and then because if you're not being there at a certain time, then you're going to lose your place, or you're going to lose your place on the waiting list, or still going to be charged for it anyway, and then you have to then rebook. I'm like, there's a lot of things that we struggle with doing in the first place that we have to do just to get diagnosed with a condition that tells us we struggle with those things. And
there's no one to help people with that.
Yeah.
And you've hit a thing there is like, I think having children probably pushed my ADHD over the edge because I didn't just have to look after myself anymore. Yeah. I had to look after other people and then their issues. And it's just come to me then when you said about, so I had to support my son with I did all the forms and applying the PIP for my other child. I couldn't imagine having done any of those things without the medication that I take.
Yeah.
Because they were overwhelming on the medication that I take. So goodness knows how they would have been. So how does a person with no support, who's suffering from depression, anxiety, past trauma on their own, was going to send you some forms to have a look at?
Yeah. It makes no sense. And I get they need to, have the information about your life and everything to put it all together to then sort of make a diagnosis or not. But at the same time, it's kind of like, to find out if you've got a neurodevelopmental condition that makes you struggle with your memory. To get that, you have to fill out massive, long forms and explain about the whole of your life. I was in my 50s, so I'm like, there's a lot of life before me, and I struggle with my memory, and it's just nothing makes sense. It's so hard, even when you've got the support, as in where you know where to go and you booked in. All that's still really, really unhelpful for us. And I speak.
And I don't think we found the answer yet.
Yeah.
Of what the best way to support people is.
And I know.
Services are not joined up either. So you access one service and then, we need to send you to another service and we need to send you there. And you just give up.
Yeah. It's all bitty. It's all bitty. It's like the different areas are not talking to each other and don't really care. You can get a private diagnosis and then you go to get medication on an NHS and they say, hey, no, sorry, you need to go through us first of all. And like, oh, okay, all right, that's not really helpful. Or you get...
But that's because of people giving diagnoses that shouldn't be given diagnoses. Because you can just set up a business and start diagnosing people. So there's an inequity is the word. So You know, technically, I could set up my own private business and start saying I could diagnose because I've got those knowledge and skills. But that would be wrong because,
Absolutely.
so there's people set up on the internet that do internet calls and diagnose someone. So no wonder a GP won't accept, because I don't think that's a thorough assessment. And an assessment has to be face to face
Yeah.
and by the right person.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I've spoken to a lot of people, and the variation of what they've gone through, it's like it's really strange that that's allowed to happen. And I don't, in my head, I don't think it would take much to go, right, okay, go through these are what you need for to be, qualified and experienced enough to assess and diagnose, be it a single person, be it a team, and what would that team look like. And right, there you go, that's what we have. These are the people who are diagnosing, these are the things, these are the companies or the clinics that we are now saying, yes, these are the ones you can go to, and they are recognized, they do the full thing, and all that. Can't be that hard to get that done. And then everyone knows that if you go to these places, it is going to be recognized. At the moment, no one knows. You haven't got the
A bit
information.
of a hot potato. I don't think people want to get, it's like, oh, let's keep away from that. They won't accept my son on shared care at the moment, and that's a battle for another day. My medication was costing over £100 a month. My son's medication is around £30. So I'm not in a big, I'm not enthusiastic about having a battle at the moment, but I will.
Yeah.
But I've thought for the best assessment for my son, it was by a consultant, pediatrician, private, 30 years experience. He will get under an NHS care system, but it's not going to be today.
Yeah. And that's it's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. It should be standardized. And I don't understand why it's not. I mean, surely that would have been just an obvious thing to put in place. But it's like,
So surgery's just a blanket ban now. So surgery just say we're banning all private assessments.
yeah,
And I was like, well, you've got mine. And he went, well, you need to be quiet about that one. But future ones we're not accepting.
yeah,
Because we've not got the time to go through this is right, this is wrong, because there's no standardized list. And the letter's gone to GP and they've not even acknowledged it and rang me and said we're not accepting it. They've just ignored it. So it's a phone call, and it's just like, thankfully I can afford those tablets for my son at this time.
yeah,
But some people wouldn't be able to.
yeah.
People talk to me and contact me all the time about ADHD and ask for my help and support. And it's that support should be readily available.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It should be readily available, but also it should be what is available and what isn't available should be out there, and everyone kind of knows. Why are we, as the patient, doing all the research? It doesn't make any sense. If I've got heart issues, if I've got pains in my chest, it's not expected that I spend like 6 months researching it. It's expected that I go to the GP, whatever like that, then he'll have a look, and then I get referred to a heart specialist, and it's all, smooth. But this is not. It's just, do your research, see what you can find out, struggle some more. If you have to go private because you can't wait 10 years to get assessed, great. You go for it, pay your money. You come back after, a half an hour of being assessed by someone, and, I've got a diagnosis, and then NHS or whoever say, or doctors say, no, we don't take that. It's like, what? Why not tell me where to go then? Why not just tell me the best place to go, the best clinic or whatever it is to go, and that would be helpful.
Or build some partnerships like you do with physical health. Yeah. I've been referred privately for ENT because I've been waiting since August last year for a problem with my nose, and now I'm going to be seen in a private clinic that they're sending me to. Why are we not doing this with the thousands of people that are sat on a waiting list, waiting for an assessment for ADHD?
It's crazy. And then I was lucky. I at the time I did a bit of research. I mean, I say research. At that time, I knew nothing about anything, and I found the Maycourt Clinic in Milton Keynes. Get the words out. And I booked in with them. They looked great. Not that I knew what I was looking for, but they looked great. And I showed up, and this was just after I saw that documentary, the Panorama one on the. I don't know if you saw that about the guy went and got some private assessments done for ADHD, and he's not ADHD.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous about that, and I told him, I'm like, but they were brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, and they put me at ease. They weren't happy with that documentary either. But I spent 4 hours with them. The whole day. That was, and I did the QB test and everything as well. And I was I couldn't believe how much information and everything they looked at. They were looking at how often I was moving my hands and my feet, and if there's noise outside, did I pay attention to the noise, and did I everything.
Very small things to other people, but part of that assessment, and that's exactly what they did with my son.
Yeah,
he was watching his every move, and the consultant I saw after 10 minutes was like, "You've got ADHD," and then we went and did more history and stuff, and mine was a relatively short appointment, to be honest. But I think he's just been doing this a long time. It was a consultant psychiatrist who's worked in the NHS for years, based in Liverpool. I travelled probably with him an hour. I was diagnosed in the hour, and I started the medicine the next day, and immediately noticed a change.
Yeah.
And I think at that moment, talking to you now, and it does get emotional, because I'm just like, and I've experienced that since in professional life, and personal life, when people have asked me for support, that I've said, "Oh, go and see this person," and they've gone and saw them, and they've come back and said, "You were right." I know I was, which is reassuring. And they've started medicine, and or some of them have not started medicine, but having that realization. That book, All Dogs Have ADHD, I have that. I give it to people. I am supporting people within my NHS role to go on and get a diagnosis. After collecting all the information and doing the full assessment, I then kind of refer on to another service, because that's the service I work for is not set up for that.
Yeah, I find it interesting how different people with ADHD, it's all, I know it's on spectrum and everything, but it can be so different because of life. Your base symptoms, I guess, and the severity of each one, but it's the life and your surroundings that play a profound part in how it all presents, really.
Choices and your system.
Yeah.
So that family around you, the stuff that impacts on it. That some people, there's loads of famous people that have ADHD now. Well, they've had it and they talk about it, but you never see real people talk about it.
Yeah.
Some of the people that I perhaps see within my job, who I encourage to talk about it in the future, but there are people that have not had good experiences in life, and it's normalised and say, "Oh, famous people have got it," but is that normalising, or is that actually saying, "Well, such a body's famous, so what are you moaning about?"
Yeah.
These are just little thoughts. But it's like, again, you're speaking to normal people, I suppose, as well, and there's other things that, but you see TikTok videos of these people, and you're just like, is this helpful? Is it not? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking with someone the other day, and I think like the TikTok videos and all that. I like to think they all come from a good place. To get that information out there and to spread the word about ADHD. but at the same time, a fight is about taking it seriously and understanding the serious implications. So, I mean, yeah, some of the stuff that I see online it's hysterical. I mean, it is great, it's funny. However, that's not going to help our cause in regarding to get it, out there that this is a serious disorder that people massively struggle with, and it's real. And it's not just being lazy or naughty or whatever like that. This is a real thing. And I think we need more of that. We need more of the facts out there, the more of the true lived experience and what is actual ADHD, because we don't get assessed on forgetting our keys. We don't, we want to talk about more about the assessment process and what we get assessed for and how long it's gone on for, so people understand what actually is ADHD. Because a lot of things I struggle with are from the ADHD, but are not a diagnostic criteria for ADHD.
But lots of small things add up to something big. So my little boy would not put his reading book in his bag. That's not because he's being lazy. That's because he's forgot. Now he says, "Oh, have I put my reading book in my bag?" And he checks. So he's gone from being debilitated and me literally running around having to do everything to becoming more independent, like his peers, his age-related peers at 10. And I talk about it now and get shivers down my spine because it enabled him to change his life, which is really, really important to me when a lot of people were very much, don't want to be giving your kid medication, or you're rushing into it, or who's diagnosing it. And, it has been a battle. And I was never forceful of, you've got to take this medicine. The doctor talked to him and it was a choice. And it's a choice every day because he recognises that it helps him.
Yeah.
I've gone through a little bit of a bumpy road now because it doesn't seem to be helping as much. We've had some, because he's young and he's growing and stuff, so very lower dose than what it should be. But I don't want to throw medication at something. So we have a varied dose. We reduce it at the weekend to allow him to, and we're going to have to think about upping it because school has said, "Oh, he started shouting out again," and some breakthrough stuff. But I'm not rushing into anything because what adaptations are you making at school? Are you, it's exam week, and I'm like, we give some medication, but you should still be making those adaptations if you're doing assessments. You can't expect him to sit there in a room full of people in silence for 40 minutes and do a test. Because if you look at the plan, it says actually any test should be done A, B, C, and D. I'm not just giving someone medicine to as its part. So I will be inquiring about that.
Yeah, I mean, because they
on one there, you need to bring me back.
no, that's fine. No, there should be adaptations made, and length of time, increase the length of time for doing exams or tests and things like that as well. And if your son or a child struggles, or anyone struggles with staying still on a chair, you cannot expect them to sit still on a chair for an hour or whatever it is to fill up. It's not going to happen. My son, he's 9. He'll come home when we did a bit of homework, whatever like that, and he's literally doing handstands on the chair. He cannot sit still. I'm like, do it. Be safe, but do it. That's what you need to do. Me forcing, or anyone that forcing to sit still,
Or at a desk, we sit and do our homework on the floor, lay down and write, lay down.
Yeah.
Been sat at a desk all day.
Yeah, it's those little adaptations that actually doesn't mean anything for anyone, as long as things are safe and and stuff like that. That's fine. But it's that understanding, I guess, that attitude towards it all, and the willingness to be open and do these little things to help. Like those
little things.
Yeah, a lot of them are little things. They're not big things. They're just little things that can help. When I get very overstimulated, I can be very, very quickly at home. I put my headphones on and listen to rain on YouTube, just sounds of forest rain and all that. It helps to calm me and keep my head clear, and and keeps the noise that overstimulates me out. It that simple thing has changed my world at home. And that
So I have something similar. I listen to music on my headphones, but sometimes just playing out because I do spend a day a week at home doing stuff. In the office, I have my headphones on, and people know that I'm still trying to make adaptations. My little clock thing's a new thing because I should have special support, access to work stuff, and it's not enabled yet. So I've bought this clock to sort of say, right, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing this. Boom. Because again, medication isn't pop these pills, no more time blindness, no more feeling rejected, no more negative thoughts. It's just easier. So you joked that I was early. I'm sometimes late for work, but it's acceptable to be a bit late for stuff. This was important because you'd made the time, and I'm able to do that, prioritize and manage things a little bit better, but also forgive myself for being, this to me was a bit like a doctor's appointment because I don't want to let anyone down. Whereas I'm a bit late for this or that, I'm not really letting anyone down.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
it does. It does. It's it's because I guess there's a lot of contradictions in with ADHD and living with ADHD, where the issue of time is a big problem, but at the same time, people like myself, I go the other way around because I'm so scared of being late. I hate being late. If I'm going to see my parents, they're like in 3-4 hours away. There's no time thing there. It's not a problem. But if it's going to work, if it's get my son to school, all those things, I hate it. And then I start to panic when I think it's going to happen. And I know, so I'll go somewhere early. I will be early for everything I can possibly can. And if I'm not early, I start to panic because I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late. Because I have been late, and I know what it's like when I turned up and then they look at me and comment on why I'm late and things like that. And even when I'm stuck in traffic and it's got nothing to do with me whatsoever, there's a traffic jam, I can't go any further. I still feel horrible that I'm going to be late, like it's my fault.
That's just amazing that two people, ADHD, completely different experiences, because that went for me with my meds. I don't aim to be late. I was late for actually the other podcast that I did slightly, but we laughed about it. But I did feel a tiny bit stressed because he'd made the time for me and I was late to school. There'd been lots of issues that particular morning. But on a day to day, that sitting in traffic, it is what it is. It's okay.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, two similar people, but yeah, two symptoms being treated in different ways. Not, and it upsets me that you still sit there and well, forgive yourself. Just like, yeah,
it can be hard, but I think that's to do with your life around you has impacts. It affects you going forward now, whether it's be a trauma thing or not. I haven't got a clue. But there's life is life, and we all live different lives, and we've had different lives and different experience for different reasons. But it all impacts.
And you mentioned, yeah, trauma there. A lot of people, even professionals, say that trauma, a lot of symptoms of trauma, treat the trauma. Yeah, that's correct. But you can be traumatized and have ADHD at the same time. So sometimes services might say, well, we're going to treat trauma. Wait a year for that, have treatment. Oh, actually, the symptoms are still there. Let's wait on another list for a year now. You've missed your whole education because you've been waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
You can have both, and why are we not looking at treating both, or at least coexisting together to work? And,
Yeah.
hopefully moving forward, that's how services will work. But I think people separate them out, and I have had trauma in my life. That's okay. I've had therapy for that as well. But my symptoms have been from childhood, not results of traumas.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget to do the working out and trace that back. And maybe that's being a therapist. I'm not saying I'm the most skilled person in the world, but I don't see it as rocket science personally. But other professionals might disagree, but it's very frustrating and very upsetting for me that services are not set up for the demand.
Yeah.
Um,
They say it's a broken system, and for me, I'm like, it doesn't seem like there was a system put in place in the first place.
in the first place.
Yeah. So what do you think then for you as a therapist, as an ADHD, as a dad, a husband, as just a normal human being, what do you think would be the way forward then regarding living with ADHD?
I think there just needs to be more awareness, more awareness, more training, more teaching, normalizing. People with ADHD are people, normal people, like you said. We should be using those people in our services. NHS services look at service use consultants. I'm happy to share that, I've offered past service users and patients opportunities to come and interview staff. Yeah, but our organisation supports that. We should be having service users involved in anything to do with ADHD. And I'm pleased to say that did happen at the thing I went to recently about, lots of people with lived experiences sharing about shared care and all the issues that they're having. But it does seem that that's happening quite late in the day.
Yeah.
And I don't like people saying it's being overdiagnosed, because that upsets me. And I listened to something recently on a TikTok video or another media platform where a professor was talking about actually it's underdiagnosed in this country and it's been under-recognised for many, many years. It feels like there's a stigma with ADHD now, like there's been with other mental health problems. But again, it's not all about medication.
No.
It's not take a tablet and be normal.
Yeah.
Because having ADHD is not about being not normal.
Yeah.
The need, I don't feel that the government. Sorry, I'm on a proper rant now. You did ask. I don't feel that the government are doing anything. I feel it's a sink or swim.
Yeah.
If you've got the power, the money, the knowledge, the support, you can swim to safety.
Yeah.
You can get support on Harley Street or wherever, and you can pay for your medication because you're minted. You're at private school. What about those people that can't? And those are the people that will go on to develop severe and enduring mental health problems such as psychosis, schizophrenia, bipolar, substance misuse. And there needs to be so, and I said this at him, that, some research around coexisting conditions. If ADHD would have been treated, would we be in this position?
Yeah.
And I've got no evidence to back me up, and there isn't a lot of research around it. Was a couple of articles I read, but I'm pretty sure that if there was some sort of research done in a sample size of adults in mental health services, ADHD assessments were carried out, I'm pretty certain that a lot of people would meet that threshold.
Yeah.
And then my question is, if we'd have treated that, and I say we, or if whoever, if that had been recognised and treated, would that person be in that situation that they're in now? And sadly, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
But I base that on a personal interest in ADHD. I don't base that on evidence, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah, no, you get there earlier. I can't see why, just quickly before we sort of finish up, but I can't see why in schools, and even from an earlier age, they can't, even in like September, the first couple of days you go back to school, nothing gets done. So why don't they do the pre-assessments for all the divergent conditions, ADHD, autism, dyslexia? Do them, sit down, do it with the parents, whatever it is. And yes, okay, at the moment there's the teachers, what might not be able to do anything about it because of training, stuff like that. But at least they can go, right, we've done all these, give it to the parents, this is what has come out of doing these assessments. And at least from an early age, that the parents and then have the signpost to go, right, okay, these are possible struggles that we're going to have here. Let's go have a look at it and get it sorted now, rather than wait decades.
I think you're onto something there. And I think that is a really good idea. And we have school nurses that go into schools and weigh kids. We have speech and language therapists going into school. Any child that you're concerned about doing a measure, which you don't need a lot of expertise to do a measure, and then those measures could be screened or checked and just monitored, because very young children are fidgety and there are stuff going on, and it'd be wrong to assess a 5-year-old and yeah, you've got ADHD. I think you do need you need to be looking at year 3, year 4, and a collection of things over a period of time. But that system, how are things at home? Is the trauma, is the difficulties, is the stuff going on at home as well? Not discounting that, but I think you are really onto something there, and that's not what's done.
I know. I can't see why it's not. It seems quite easy to print these forms out. That the forms, it's free. This is not my idea. I spoke to Sarah Templeton, who's done a lot of she used to be a prison counsellor. She does a lot of work with in the prison, for the prison system and screening, and because a lot of inmates are undiagnosed ADHD.
Well, that's a whole other discussion. I've listened to some episodes. I've not listened to them all yet, because you're new to me, and they're on my Spotify now. But yeah, prisons.
Listen to my episode of that with her. I mean, it's just staggering what's going on and what could easily be done. But anyway, so that we could talk for a lot longer, to be fair, can we?
Well, I'll come back if you don't have anyone else to talk back another time. You can have me back.
No worries. I will get you back. But it's been really, really nice to have a chat with you about, obviously
It's my pleasure. It's, hopefully it'll help someone.
Yeah. If it helps one person, then, job done. This is what it's all about. And I think it's important to give people a voice for the first time, and that's what I want for you to come on and tell us about what's going on with your life and your thoughts and everything. And I hope that people, when they listen, they can kind of makes them think about it. If you don't know anything about ADHD, I hope it educates people. And I hope people with ADHD or undiagnosed ADHD can relate and make them think about, okay, maybe this is a possibility. Maybe this is something worth looking at and going down that sort of route to try and support ourselves. Because all you want to do is support yourself and stop the struggling every day.
Stop the struggle. Hashtag stop the struggle.
Yeah. I like that. So, Britt, again, thank you for people for listening. I hope there's someone listening anyway. As always, guys, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.